Okay, here's an attempt to try to feed a deer. Hey girl, how's it going? Got another apple? Come here. Yeah, it's a good apple. Look at that. This is for my YouTube channel. Come on, show me some love. Come on, come get the apple. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And our spring break is just about over here this year, so we are going to throw in one more game of Axis and Allies 1914. And so here's the boards all set up. We're going to get going here. We are playing without the Russian Revolution, and so we'll see how things go. Oh, we got to tidy that up. But it'll be an interesting tilt today. We have a new player and some new ideas. So fresh eyes looking at the board, but a very good strategist. And we'll see how he does playing the Axis powers. Wish him luck. Okay, some mellow music after a raucous first round. Well, let's get right to it here. So the Austro-Hungarians attacked Serbia and failed. They failed, so I got them right ticked off. So they went into Trieste and took it soundly. Killed all of the Italian units. Boom! And only lost a few, not a ton, I think 4. So they're sitting pretty there in northern Italy, unlike the real war. The Austro-Hungarians then massed a bunch of guys here, and they actually took Romania, but the Russians brought everything over and took it back. And the Russians have moved out, but they retreated from Poland, and of course Germany moved in lock, stock, and smoke and barrel there. Russia built a fighter here, which kind of forced Germany to bring its fighter this way. So it might have been a smart move there for $6. The Germans took Holland quite quickly and walked into Belgium, which the British then liberated for the French. The Germans came into Lorraine pretty tough and left the French with just one man and one artillery left. So the French regrouped in Burgundy, and they brought everything they could into Burgundy. So they have a pretty substantial stack of dudes there and built 8 men. The French also had to respond to German aggression here in Africa, and the Germans, of course, took these 2 British territories like they are typical to do, and so the French have loaded up down here and are coming this way. The Germans are just going around, just trying to be as annoying as they can, and which they're very good at, and the British, of course, are scampering around trying to gobble up what they can. The British landed in Transjordan, of course, and took that, and took the freebies in Arabia, took out Persia in the first round. So some really good rolling on the Entente's part. And I'm sorry, my friend is not playing the Axis, he's playing the Central Powers, and the Entente is myself, of course. And Entente spent everything for Britain in India. So Ottoman is on notice, baby. The Italians came over and took Albania, of course, for free. Oh, gotta put my token on there. And kind of made up for losing Trieste, or not Trieste, Tuscany. No, what is this? Venice. There we go. Sorry, I said Trieste earlier. That's Venice. That's pretty much it, though. The Russians have got a decent force in the south here. The Austro-Hungarians still haven't taken care of Serbia, which they probably will have to do this round, but they have no reinforcements here. So there's that. So we'll see how that goes. The other notable thing is the Germans came across to 9 and went to attack all the stuff there, and then the British survived with a cruiser and a battleship, and the Germans retreated here with their battleship, and the British came over and sunk it, lost a cruiser, Battleship hit a mine. It was just nasty. So, and the British minefield actually claimed 2 Germans. So, hit the battleship and sank a sub. So, but the German sub over here, there were 2 subs who had a little bit better luck and was able to sink the cruiser and the British transport. Americans just built 3 transports, keeping it simple. All right, we'll tell you what happens on round 2. Alright, so here we are. We'll give you the blow-by-blow of the second round here. So the British tried to come in, or the Germans came into South Africa and took it because the British were off there taking German stuff. So the British attacked, they each lost a man, but that was it. And the British are starting to gobble up German holdings all around here. The French use their transport here to come around from the far side and take Cameroon and block off the German retreat. Over here in the Middle East, things are looking pretty bleak for the Ottoman. They are down to 14 bucks, and just the pressure from the British here is relentless. Although, when we say that, Britain didn't build anything in this round on that side, so maybe it's not as relentless as we thought. Ottomans did have fun. You may have noticed that there was a lone cruiser in 21. They attacked the Russians and actually survived the mines and the 2 cruisers and killed them both off. And then this one came down and killed a British cruiser and a transport. So it's doing okay. And the we'll see if the French are probably going to try to take care of it on the next round. Up here, of course, the Ottomans are bulking up because the Russians were able to dispatch the Austro-Hungarians in Romania quite handily. The Italians came in and have now contested Serbia, and they gobbled up Trieste with the lone infantry. And they had, this was an unbelievable roll, they had 16 dice, and they got 10 hits. And so the Austro-Hungarians replied and only got 4 hits or 5 hits or something, and so yeah, 6 hits. But anyway, yeah, that was pretty nasty for them. But it's still contested there in Venice. Over here on the eastern front, the Russians pushed in here to Galicia, trying to keep that contested. The Russians moved a lot of stuff just outside of Moscow here to contest the big German stack, and the Germans replied by sending more stuff this way, so we'll see what happens there. On the western front, the Germans have gone into Belgium with everybody, and the French and the British are there trying to stem the tide. Now the French do have a large stack here, which obviously if the Germans do go into Picardy, that'll have to be the reply, or Paris will definitely fall the next round. Something interesting, though, is that you may have noticed that there were some mismatched colors going on the board here. There was, I think, a French infantry here and a French infantry here. Just grabbed the wrong ones. Things were not doing well. And the other thing that I glossed over as I was explaining all the different rules to my partner here is I transported like 8 units across on one transport. So we put them all back and just had the 2 over here in Belgium, which promptly got killed, of course, by the Germans. But that's why the British built a bunch of transports and built stuff there. That's why they didn't build anything in India this round. So mental mistakes happen when you are instructing at times, which probably isn't good for me to say since I'm a teacher, but there you have it. The Americans built some troops ready to come across, but it's only round 2, and they've got one more round of isolationism until things get moving. So for them, it's all right. We will come back at the end of round 3 to let you know how the war is progressing. All right, here we are at the end of round 3, and Germany has been cleared out of Africa, except for one influence marker, which we will be getting rid of at next round. Down here in the Middle East, it's becoming quite interesting. The Ottoman have been stacking up some decent amounts of men and material here, and the British, who had put a lot of stuff into there in the first round, hasn't built anything there since, and it's not for lack of wanting to, but we'll get to the reason why later. The Ottomans actually were able to come over here and secure Serbia for the Austro-Hungarians, defeating the last 3 Italian units. And Romania, which had been vacated by the Russians, was easily taken by the Ottoman. The Russians have not a bad little force here, nothing huge, but decent reserves. And there's their main army, which, with another army up top here, do outnumber the Germans and Austro-Hungarians. So the Russians are holding tough here, but there's more Germans on the way. As you know, on the Western Front, that went really poorly for France, so they buggered off. They went up to Picardy and they've marshaled everything there. The British continue to build Chinese transports to bring over more and more units. And the French are just hoping that they can hold on for a couple more turns here. And the Americans, who will be entering the war this next turn, have a total of 6 transports built up with enough stuff to bring over. So should be okay. We'll see what happens. Italy kind of took it on the chin this last round. They lost Trieste. They got all their stuff that's over here on this side of the Adriatic got wiped out, and because of the problems that Austro-Hungary is causing and can cause with a large stack, they've decided to hunker in the bunker a little bit here. The French did away with the little cruiser they could, the Ottoman cruiser. But beyond that, that's pretty much it. Yeah, the Germans here, as we know, they've got a good force. They outnumber the British and French on this side, but the British and French can bring in reinforcements faster. As you can see, the Germans, for one turn, sent everything to the Russian front, and so there is a bit of a gap there, which might spell a little bit of a reprieve for the Allies, or for the Entente. But we'll see. The Ottoman were looking pretty weak there. They were down to $14, and they've been able to bounce back a little bit now. They are they're up a little bit. So they're up 8 and they're down 5. So they're up 3 actually. And last turn they were down 2. So they're not going away quietly. And we'll see if Russia can hold on here. Got some pretty decent forces, but the Germans are coming. Alright, we'll let you know what happens on round 4 when we get America into the war. Alright, see you in a minute. Alright, so here we are at the end of round 3. Or sorry, the end of round 4. America's in the war now. And we'll just go along here. We'll look at Africa. Africa is now completely devoid of central powers. So everything's gone, although the Turks might get in here. The Ottomans have decided to push out a little bit. They had a disastrous campaign against the British here. They sent a whole whack of stuff in here, and the British ended up getting a ton of hits. But you can see there's a British fighter, so all their artillery, 6 are shooting back at 4, and 5 of them got hits, and then they also had 13 men in there, and yeah, they got a whole whack of hits on the Ottoman here. Maybe they had 16, I don't know, but they had a lot of guys. It was pretty nasty for the Ottoman. The British have decided to put some more units here into India to put some pressure on, because of course this group here can't take Constantinople. It's just not, because it's still got to fight these guys here, and by then Constantinople's going to plant a few more guys on there, and they've got some reinforcements coming. So it's probably not the British didn't put quite enough in there off the hop, but it's a good thing they helped out here, as we can see on the Western Front. The Germans went into Picardy, went in there and smashed the French, and there wasn't much left of the French. Just had their artillery and 1 man left. And then the French came up from Paris and really put the boots to the Germans on that one. And the British then landed. They landed 14 units behind the German lines, cutting off the reinforcements. And so although the Germans do have a decent amount of stuff coming here, it's now got to go through the British, I don't know if it's the Expeditionary Force in World War I, but there it is. The French have moved transport up here, and the Americans have loaded up. They got 6 of each on there, and they'll be over next round. And if Picardy is still contested, they might drop in there, although the artillery does get that shot at you when you're dropping off, so they may choose to drop off elsewhere. The Italians were defeated in Venice and decided not to try to provoke the Austro-Hungarians there, but moved up and just have a decent amount of guys there. The Austro-Hungarians split their forces from Vienna. 3 went one way, 3 went the other. They were able to take Budapest back from the Russians, but the Russians maintained control of Romania. And the Russians here are just really kind of hanging on. The Germans are getting more and more and more numerous. The Russians are as well, of course, but we'll see what happens there. On the rest of turn 4 now, or not the rest of turn 4, I guess going into turn 5 now, and we'll see what happens with the American recruits coming over. The doughboys are coming over. We'll see if that's going to be enough here. The Western Front's looking pretty safe all of a sudden. So the Germans may have to fight a delaying action here on the Eastern Front like they did in the real war, where they just wanted to stop Russia and not really prosecute much of an offensive war there. Austro-Hungary still not really strong. Took some real dirty beatings early on, and but now they're getting a little revived, but we'll see how they do. And the Ottomans again on the ropes, but definitely still in the fight. Alright, we'll see what happens on turn 5. Alright, turn 5 is in the books, and let's give you the recap. The pesky Turks here have taken Egypt and Saudi Arabia, but that might cost them in the end here, getting the 3 extra bucks, but they've got 6 points of troops out of the war, basically. The Brits here are being relentless. They were able to clear them out of the Ankara region, moving 3 or 6 more units to Mesopotamia, and they've built a few more here. So there we go. Constantinople has 11 troops in it and some scant reserves. One guy went over here to take Albania for 2 bucks. Austro-Hungarians took back Romania, but not much bite left in that dog. And the Russians were able to clear out any of the pesky Central Powers that were in Ukraine. The Italians, thanks to the French, you can see there's no more French fleet here. Well, they jumped in and had a fight with the Austro-Hungarian fleet, sank everything, they all got sunk. So not much left. So the Austro-Hungarian, or the Italians, pardon me, decided they'd go in there and just take Trieste. Just why not? So that'll hopefully slow down the Central Powers incursion in the north here of Italy. As we know, on the Western Front, things have cooled off considerably. The Germans have been kicked out. The French were able to do that on their turn. And then the Americans landed their 12 units, and with a few more on the way, as you can see. The British were able to split their merchant fleet, and they're sending some guys over to Canada now to pick up those 8 units. And they sent some guys just up the coast to Holland, liberated Holland, and still were able to bring over a couple guys into Belgium. They didn't have many at home left, though, so there's not much they could do there. Germans are on the run a bit here, and I forgot to put a British marker on Alsace. I'll have to check our economy, but I think we counted it. They're getting squeezed a little bit here, but there's really not much power in this Entente force, right? Like the Germans could probably take all 3 of these territories back this turn. So not much there. We cleaned up the Eastern Front, and so that's the way that stands right now. So the Germans actually have a slight edge in numbers versus Belarus, but when you throw in Livonia and Moscow and Ukraine, the Russians will tilt the scales. So we'll have to see if there's going to be one massive conflagration here on turn 6. And if the Germans are able to take care of these pesky Brits, The game may continue on for some time, but we'll have to wait and see what turn 6 brings us. Well, folks, I think that's it. Quick rundown here. The British took that without losing anybody. They've smashed into Constantinople, and the Ottoman were down to 1 man, and so they put their guy on, put a few guys on here. They had 21, so they put on 7. Then they had one for 8, and they had one there for 9, I guess, and then they had their stack there and brought it over. But that's not looking good now. There's just too much British stuff coming, and that's just not going to work. The Russians were able to get rid of Austria-Hungary here in Romania, and with some authority. They still have all these guys left. Ukraine is pretty well stocked. The big story is the Russians, sensing an opportunity, knowing that the Western Front was pretty solidified, decided to take everybody they had from Ukraine, Belarus, and Livonia and smash into Poland. And they had some real success. They got 27 hits or something, 24 hits. Anyway, they did really well. The Germans did all right too, as you can see. The Russian infantry is way down. But again, that's just going to stall the Germans, and there's no reinforcements coming this way because the Germans decided to send everything that way. Again, you know, the Germans do have 12 guys here and whatnot, but now the Americans just brought in 12 units there from Picardy from last round, and they're landing more troops, and a couple more guys coming. The British are coming with some guys from Canada. It's just not looking good for the Central Powers. So they're going to throw in the towel here and call it good here on, I think it's turn 7? Yeah, I think it's turn 7. Just wasn't enough there for the Central Powers when they needed it. And the Austro-Hungarians here got really tied up in Venice. Because they lost a lot of guys in Russia, and then they just didn't have the horses to get through. And Italy, being Italy, kept bothering them. And maybe the distraction was a bit too much for them. Here in Trieste, they took it a couple of times, and that was enough to throw the Austro-Hungarians off down there. I think right off the bat, when Austria-Hungary didn't take Serbia, that was a bit of bad luck. Usually they take Serbia first round, no problem. But this time they didn't, and that always causes a bit of concern. Not much else to say here, I guess. There's a lot of scary moments here. The Germans put up a really good fight, and it was pretty close. It was they had a good stack of Germans here on the doorstep, but just couldn't punch through. And the Allies showed up just in time. Actually, those Brits, really handy there, cutting the German supply lines and trapping the Picardy army, the Germans. So that was good of them. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. An Allied victory here. Central Powers, you know, it's always tougher to win with the Central Powers in this game, especially without the Russian Revolution rule. But who knows, maybe next time they'll be able to put together the victory, and we'll see how it works. Alright, thanks so much for watching, folks. Take care, hug your loved ones, and may those dice be with you.